Hello, in this property training video, I'm going to share with you some hints and tips from my Goal Setting Masterclass. I'm going to share with you why it's important for you to set goals, when's the best time to set goals, how to actually get those goals to happen, and also I'm going to talk about why some of the advice you might have been given about goal setting is actually probably bad advice. So my name's Simon Zutshi. I'm the author of Property Magic, the Amazon #1 property bestseller. I'm the founder of the Property Investors Network, and I've been teaching people like you how to become successful investors for the last 2 decades. Now, when I first heard about goal setting, someone said you should write down your goals. And to be honest, I kind of dismissed it. They said if you write down what you want, it's far more likely to happen. I thought, yeah, I'm busy. I'm not going to bother with that. And that was such a huge mistake. And it was only actually when I was at an event in November 2000, and it was an Tony Robbins wealth mastery event, all about making money. And I talked a lot about the psychology of investing and the power of having a positive mindset, which I believe is very important. They talked about investing in the stock market. They talked about gold and silver, but interestingly, they didn't talk about investing in property, which I thought was a bit strange because at the time I was still working at Cadbury's. I was a senior manager. I really enjoyed my job. I like the people, I like the company, I like the product. I had some properties and I was in a pretty good position. And they said as one of the exercises, if you want to be successful, you need to work out what do you want and why do you want it? So they encouraged everyone to sit down and write down their goals. I said, I'd never really done this before. I'd heard about it, but I hadn't really given it much attention. But whenever I go to events, I fully commit, I participate, I do exactly what I'm told to do. I found that's how I always get best results because the people teaching me, I figure they must know what they're talking about, right? And so I wrote down this list of goals and some advice I was given at the time that I want to share with you, which might contradict what you might have been told in the past, was when you set your goals, don't worry about how you're going to achieve them. You can work that out later on. What you need to do is think about what do you really, really want? And not what you think other people might say you want. What do you want? And why do you want that? What difference is it going to make to your life? So for example, let's say you say, I want to earn £20,000 a month. Okay, great. Well, that's possible. But why do you want that? Normally it's a figure people have just plucked out the air. In fact, if someone was earning £10,000 a month before tax, that's a pretty good salary that most people would be very, very happy on. And there's nothing wrong with saying I want 20 rather than 10. But what I'm trying to say here is think about what do you actually want it and why do you want it? You see, if you don't really want what you've written down as your goals, the problem is when challenges come up, when obstacles are in front of you, which will definitely happen in your property investing, particularly with buy-to-let property, if you don't have a really good reason why, a burning desire, the chances are you'll probably give up far too easy, which is what many people do when they're trying to invest in property, often because they're trying to do it on their own and they don't know how to get over the obstacles that they get confronted by. So that's why you want to work out what do you want and importantly, why do you want it? But the comment that I picked up when I went to this Tony Robbins Wealth Mastery event was, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? Let me say that again. What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? Now, the reason I think that's such a brilliant question is most people, we limit ourselves. We have limiting beliefs of what we can and can't do. And someone might say, well, I'd love to do this, but oh no, I can't do that because I'm too old or I'm too young or I don't have enough money or I'm not smart enough or whatever it might be. We have all these reasons and excuses, beliefs why we can't do things. But what if you took those away for the moment and said, look, what if whatever you decide to do, you absolutely cannot fail? What would you do then? And it's a really empowering question to ask yourself because it opens up your mind to the possibilities of what could be. And possibility thinking is a very smart thing to do. Not limited by your resources, but what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? So I really encourage you to have a think about that and write down those goals. Now, I did it in this Tony Robbins Wealth Mastery event. I wrote those goals and I put it in my folder and I kind of forgot about it, to be honest. And then a few years later, about 3 years later, in 2003, I was just moving into a new apartment with a new girlfriend, and I was very happy about that. And I was moving my stuff, and I picked up this Tony Robbins file. And I thought, I hadn't really looked at it much, to be honest. I opened it up, and out fell this piece of paper on which I'd written my goals. I thought, I remember writing those. And it was all dated November 2000, and I started to read through the goals, and I couldn't believe it. From about 20 things that I'd put on that list, I'd achieved about 15 of them. Now, bear in mind, some of these were things that I really wanted, some things that I had no idea how I would do, but I just thought, I'd really like to do that. So on the list, for example, was meeting a lovely new girlfriend. I was single at the time when I wrote this, and I'd found a lovely girlfriend, and I wanted to move in with someone, and we bought a property together. Fantastic. So those things I ticked off the list. There were other things on the list that I wrote down that I didn't know that I was going to do. I said, actually, I think I'd like to leave Cadbury's. Now, I really liked the company and the people and everything. I was paid really well. I could have progressed really high in the company because I was a graduate trainee and became a senior manager. But something inside me said, actually, maybe I can do more. Maybe there's more to life. And so I wrote that down, and I had left Cadbury's. I'd also put, I'd like to replace my earned income from Cadbury's with income from property. And by then, 2003, I'd done that. I put on there, I'd like to be teaching other people how to invest in property. And at the time when I wrote it, I wasn't teaching anyone. I wasn't even speaking about property. And by 2003, I was doing that. Now, one of the things I put on the list, which I guess was pushing my thinking a bit further, was after putting, I'd like to teach people how to invest in property. The next thing was, I would like to be speaking at Tony Robbins' Wealth Mastery about property investing to the audience. And maybe that was more of a kind of ego thing, and I've never spoken before, but I thought, hey, that would be a pretty cool thing to do. And by 2003, well, that hadn't happened. You don't always get everything you write on your list. But interestingly, in 2009, November, I was standing on stage at the Ibis Hotel, Earls Court, in front of about 900 people. And I was at Tony Robbins' Wealth Mastery, and I was talking about investing in property. And then actually I did it 2 more times. Every time they've done it in the UK, I've been the speaker about property for Tony Robbins. And I never thought I would do that. And I don't know where it came from. I just sat and thought, that'd be really cool. I'd love to do it. And if you write it down and you put it out there, and lots of things happened between when I wrote it down and actually got on stage doing that event, obviously. But when you write things down, you've got a much better chance of them actually happening. I think it's kind of magic. And I know people put goals on their computer or type them into their phone. My recommendation would be get yourself a workbook and then actually write down your goals in handwriting in your book, because I think some magic happens when you put pen to paper. And stop limiting yourself as to what you want. And my good friend, Dr. Benjamin Hardy, who his recent book with Dan Sullivan is 10x is easier than 2x. In that, he talks about if you really want to step up to the next level, rather than setting achievable goals, you want to set impossible goals. Goals that you have no idea how you're going to do. Because if you have no idea, it gets you thinking in a different way. You see, if you do what you've always done, you're going to get the same results that you always had. And in the book, they talk about most people, they want to do more. They just do more activity. They work harder. And if you work harder, you take more action, you're going to get better results. But you can only grow a certain amount, and you end up getting exhausted. You can't benefit from all the success you're having. What Ben talks about in his book, 10x is easier than 2x. And by the way, it's a great book. I highly recommend you go and get it. He talks about actually, rather than doing more, you want to do less. Because about 80% of what you're doing probably is not really giving you much success. In fact, you could probably stop doing 80% of what you're doing and you'd have no negative effect on your progress. Whereas it's the 20% that makes the real difference. I've talked about this before on my podcast. I've talked about this before in some videos, but it's focusing in on the important things. So once you know what you want to achieve, you may not know how, but then you've got to start looking for a plan. And if you put things on that you just don't know how to do, it gets you thinking outside of your current realm of reality. And there are things that are completely off your radar, things you don't know. One of my favorite sayings, you don't know what you don't know. But if you put down what you want to achieve, it's amazing when you've got that clarity and direction, how things start happening. You start meeting people who can help you, and growing your network is a really smart thing to do, obviously. So I think it's really important to work out what you want and why you want it. Set really big goals, maybe impossible ones. You have no idea how you're going to do it. Then set about trying to work out a plan, how are you actually going to achieve those goals. So make sure it's something you really want rather than something you've just made up. And some advice you might have been given is set SMART goals. SMART stands for specific, which I think is really good. Be specific what you want. Measurable, so you can measure it, see if you've got there or not. And then they talk about achievable, realistic, and timely. Now, timely, I agree. We want to have a deadline. When do you want to achieve those goals by? The two letters in that acronym SMART have a problem with are achievable and realistic. If you set yourself to achievable and realistic goals, the problem is you're never really going to stretch yourself because you know you can do it. Well, that's achievable. Why not set an impossible goal when you have no idea how you can do it? As my friend Dr. Benjamin Hardy would say, it's those impossible goals where you get a real jump, where you get a step up to the next level, a psychological upgrade. And I highly recommend stop setting achievable, realistic goals. And the reason people do it, they say, well, I don't want to set a goal I'm not going to achieve, because if I don't achieve my goal, I'm going to feel bad about that. And I understand that. But in another one of Dr. Benjamin Hardy's books, The Gap and the Gain, he talks about rather than just looking at where you want to get to and beating yourself up if you haven't achieved that goal, what you should do is look over your shoulder and recognize all the progress you have made. And if you're living in the gain, where you're thinking about all the progress you have made, you're going to be far more positive rather than living in the gap where you have a lack for the things you haven't achieved. So, as you might have guessed, Dr. Benjamin Hardy is one of my favorite authors. Very, very knowledgeable. There's lots of great books. Go and check them out. But I just wanted to give you a bit of an insight into some of these goal setting techniques. And I encourage you, once you've watched this video, don't watch anymore. Just take some time out to sit down and think about what do you really want and why do you want it. And if you have a partner, a significant other, once you've written your goals, why don't you get them to do their goals and then compare your goals. And hopefully there's some alignment there. Hopefully you move in the same direction together. You can learn and grow together. It's far more fun doing things with other people rather than just on your own. And finally, how can we help you? Well, hopefully you enjoy this YouTube channel. If you do, please like the video, comment on what are your goals? What do you want to achieve this year? I'd love to see that and get some feedback on that. And if you like what I do on this channel, please subscribe to the channel. Please hit the bell icon, because a lot of the videos I put out are timely and they're often time sensitive strategies. So you don't want to be looking at them 6 months later because you will have missed that investing opportunity. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you've not been to a property investor network meeting, all I can say is, wow, you are missing out. If you've been before, you know how good they are, and hopefully you're already booked for your next property investor meeting. You can go to pinmeeting.co.uk. We'll put a link below this video, pinmeeting.co.uk. You can see the 50 plus meetings around the UK, also now in the Netherlands, in Dubai, and also coming to Brazil very soon. Find your local meeting. Look at when the date is. They're all in the evenings during the week, so after work for most people. And come along. Come along, see what you've been missing out on. And in fact, if you've never been before, what you can do is you pick your meeting you want to go to, scroll down to the bottom of the page where you normally pay, it's £20, £25 or so. But if you use a special voucher code, for the first time, it'll bypass the payment page. You can come along as our guest just to come and check it out and see what you think and see what you've been missing out on. And I know you're going to love it. And January is a great time to get to your local PIN meeting because lots of people go. Take some business cards with you. Great way to grow your network. And as I always say, your network is your net worth. So I highly, highly recommend you seize this opportunity. Now, the code you need is going to be YouTube. We had to think long and hard about that, but YouTube is the code you need to try. And if you've been to a PIN meeting before, hey, you can give that code to someone else, a friend, work colleague, family member. Maybe they might be in a different part of the country. There's going to be a PIN meeting close to where they are as well. Anyone you know, you care about, who think would be interested in property, get them to come along to their local PIN meeting. So that's it from this video. I do hope you've enjoyed it. I wish you just an incredibly successful 2024. It's going to be an amazing time to invest in property. I'm going to be doing a lot more investing than I have over the last 10 years probably in the next 12 months, because it's such a great time to be acquiring property. And I'm going to post my journey, tell you what I'm doing on this YouTube channel. So thanks so much for watching. As ever, I encourage you to invest with knowledge, invest with skill. And if you see me at one of the network meetings or one of our physical training events in 2024, do come up, say hello, and let me know that you watch my YouTube channel, and let me know about your journey. I want to hear about success and what you've been able to achieve thanks to the training and education you've received from this YouTube channel. So as ever, invest with knowledge, invest with skill. See you very soon. Hello, it's Simon Zutshi here. I do hope you just enjoyed that YouTube video. And you know what? If you really want to move forward in your property investing, it's much easier to do it with the help of other people. And one of the best things you can do is go to your local property investor network meeting where you can meet other like-minded people. You can learn some of the very best strategies and really get a motivational positive boost every single month about what you could achieve from your property investing. Now, there are 50 plus meetings around the UK. We've got meetings in the Netherlands, we've got them in the UAE as well, and growing around Europe. So all you have to do is click on the link below this video, go to pinmeeting.co.uk. All the meetings are listed there. Click on the one that's closest to you, see when the date and time is, and if you want to attend that meeting, you can just buy a ticket, or if you want to come as my guest to your very first PIN meeting, just use the voucher code, which is the word YouTube, because obviously you've watched the YouTube video. So just go to pinmeeting.co.uk, pick your location, scroll down where it says payment options, click on pay with a voucher code, fill in the details, use the word YouTube, and it will bypass the payment page and you can come to your very first PIN meeting for free. If you haven't been yet, I highly recommend you come along and see exactly what you've been missing out on. You're going to wish you would have gone years ago. It's going to help you move forward massively with your property investing. So if you enjoy these videos, I highly recommend you go and check out the PIN meeting. Click on the link below in the description. Invest with knowledge, invest with skill, and enjoy the next video.